Hello flippers! On a previous video in part 1, we learned how to destroy home sellers option number 1 of leaving the house vacant or abandoned. In this video, we're going to learn on how to use our neuro-linguistic programming techniques, specifically on the neuro-negotiation aspect or phase, in order for you to be able to destroy their option number 2, which will be to rent the house to a family and collect rent every month. Do they really want to do that? So this is how we do it by applying neuro-linguistic programming. When you are negotiating with home sellers, don't forget that the 4 options that they have to dispose of their house is to leave the house vacant or abandoned, to rent the house, to force sell the house by owner, basically just to avoid paying the commissions, so just selling the house themselves, or listing the house on the market. So when meeting with home sellers, you want to apply the neuro-negotiation techniques that we're going to be teaching in this 4-part series, so that you have better probabilities of putting the house under agreement. Now, when you are talking to home sellers, in this case, you're going to be destroying the option that they have to rent the house. Now, the best way is not for you as the cash home buyer, as the cash investor, to tell them not to rent the house. This is where we use the subtle negative phrasing techniques that we apply. In this case, we're going to apply 4 little seeds in their mind to help them understand that renting the house is not going to be in their best interest. And this is how we do it. So you want John to tell John, or you want Mary to tell Mary, not you. No. You don't want to tell them. You want John to tell John and Mary to tell Mary that renting the house is not the best option. Renting the house is not on their best interest. And how do we do that? We start planting these little seeds in their mind that eventually is going to germinate, to flourish in their subconscious mind. And that's where you want that seed to be planted. That's where you want this to germinate, to flourish. It's not in the rational mind. You want this to go on their subconscious mind, which is actually the one that makes decisions. Don't forget that. So the first thing that we want to tell in this phase of the negotiations is that and this is how I do it. I will say something like, John or Mary, so have you ever thought about just renting the house instead of selling me the house? Why don't you just go ahead and rent the house? So I'm asking this very naive question in order to have John tell John and Mary tell Mary, no, we don't want to rent the house. If that's the first answer that you get from them, you have just won that argument. Just by asking a very simple question. John, Mary, instead of selling me the house, why don't you just go ahead and rent the house to a family? And sometimes you're gonna get something like, well, if we can sell it, yeah, so we can consider renting the house. However, at the end of the day, if they wanted to rent the house, you wouldn't be sitting there in the living room, in the dining table, because they invited you to their home because you told them that you want to buy the house, not to rent the house, right? So just the fact that you're sitting in front of John and Mary is telling you right there that they want to sell the house. However, you want them to be very 1000% sure that they do not want to rent that house. And this is how we do it. So I'll say something like, well, again, just to reinforce that, I'll say something like, well, John and Mary, so instead of selling me the house, have you considered renting the house? Why don't you just go ahead and rent the house to a family? And that's, whatever answer they tell you is going to give you a lot of information. Don't forget, always read between the lines. That's very, very important. Now, something that, even if they say, oh, no, we don't want to sell the house. We don't want to rent the house. We want to sell the house. So I will reinforce that 4 different times. I'm going to reinforce it, reinforce it, reinforce it, and reinforce it, because every reinforcement is planting a seed in their mind. And this is how we do it. I'll say something like, well, why don't you just go ahead and rent the house? Not all tenants are bad tenants. You can get great tenants, that pay the rent in time, that don't give you any issues. I do know that sometimes you can get a tenant from hell. A tenant from hell is one of those very, professional tenants that know all the codes, know all the laws, and they're going to put you through hell. But John, Mary, what are the chances that you get someone like that? Someone that will put you through hell, by not paying the rent, or, causing you all kinds of trouble because they know the system. You see, I just planted the seed. So then they're going to be like something like, oh, no, we don't want to deal with tenants because of this, because of that. So they're telling not you, they're actually telling themselves in their mind. So then I'm going to come back and say, well, by renting to someone that, that is a good tenant, you can, they're gonna make sure that you keep, the house up to code. They're gonna make sure that you keep the house, clean, and the house safe for them and their families. Otherwise, they can get you into very costly legal lawsuits. But again, what are the chances of that happening to you, right? So once again, you planted another seed in their mind, making them understand that renting the house would not be in their best interest, because ting, 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 they're going to see troubles all over the place. So the next reinforcement that we will use in this particular scenario will be to tell them, but wait a minute, instead of selling me the house, you can rent the house. This is a single family home. This will rent for at least $5,000-$6,000. So if you collect, let's say for instance, $6,000 per month times 12 months, John, Mary, you're going to have an income of $72,000 every year. That's a lot of money that you can have in your pocket. Yes, you're going to have to pay a lot of taxes out of that income, but at the end of the day, you're making some money. You see what I just did? Most people, very unfortunately, they don't like to pay their taxes. They don't like to pay taxes at all. So what I just did is I'm telling them, yes, you can rent a house, make $72,000 a year, and you're going to be making a lot of money. But you're going to, on the same token, you're going to be paying a lot of taxes. And that's another seed I'm planting there in their mind, so that they don't see that as an option. So another thing that we do is that we want to make them understand that by renting this single family house to a family, they're going to be fully responsible for whatever happens in that house. So for instance, I'll say something like, well, but why don't you just rent the house? I mean, I don't, the house is been, functional for a long time. I don't think that toilets will be clogging all the time at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you have to drive in the middle of the night to go and fix one of these toilets. Or maybe the heating system breaks down at 3 o'clock in the morning during, a brutal winter, and you have to, drive across town to fix that in the middle of the night and call, maintenance people or handyman or this company or that company. Because if you don't take action right there, you can be exposed to legal, to lawsuits. So again, I'm planting that seed in their mind so that they understand that, the risks and the exposure that they will have by renting this house, and at the end of the day, it's not a lie. You're telling something that it could happen. Maybe it will never happen, but yes, it could happen. And sometimes people, they don't think about these issues. And you, as a professional real estate investor, have to make your home sellers understand the way that we think, and also understand the things that can happen to them if they don't sell the house to you. And this is the type of techniques that we apply during our Neuro negotiations phases with the home sellers. I hope that you like this video, and I hope that you learn, and I also hope that you learn something new today. So the next two options that we're going to be destroying will be option number 3 will be to for sale by owner, and option number 4 will be to list the house with real estate agent. So all two going to be destroyed by you, the professional real estate investor. Have a wonderful day.